So what happens when the only safety you crave is found not really in your world, but somewhere completely different?
Yeah, or when the people you think you can trust, well, they turn out to be incredibly flawed.
Exactly. And where do you even start looking for hope when it feels like everything around you is just falling apart? These aren't just, abstract ideas. They're right at the core of the world.
Mm.
And the characters we're exploring today, we're looking into those really intricate layers of relationships, responsibility, and just the sheer effort of survival in this book.
It's a story that it really throws you into a life that's constantly under threat, just relentless.
Oh boy.
You've got dangerous secrets, nonstop political games, the harshness of, well, assassination training, and then the huge drain of using powerful magic that most people don't even understand.
And figuring out how characters handle that kind of complex world,
Yeah.
how they find some clarity or a new way of looking at things in these really dense stories.
Oh.
That's what we try to do. It's also actually why our YouTube channel, Mindful Moments, exists. It uses AI to analyze books like this one, and it's really designed to help you reflect more deeply, to kind of engage that critical thinking these stories really call for.
That's a great resource for this kind of material.
Yeah, it really helps go beyond just the surface level.
Because that constant threat, it's just the protagonist's everyday reality. His life is filled with, learning the skill, digging up secrets, fighting enemies, sometimes ones he can see, sometimes not, and just trying to cope with all the plotting at court. It's not like an occasional problem. It is his life.
Right, it's the baseline. And what's so striking, I think, is where he finds any kind of comfort or refuge. He doesn't search for hope inside Buckkeep, within that dangerous world of his duties. He looks for it entirely outside of that, in Molly's simple life, in her fishing town.
Absolutely. And it's such a conscious choice he makes, isn't it, to keep her separate. He never tries to drag her into his mess. Instead, he goes to her world, that town where she sells her candles, where they can just walk on the beach, places where his life's dangers seem, well, far away.
It feels like just knowing she's out there, that kind of connection is possible somewhere, is almost enough for him. He barely lets himself want more.
That physical act of going there to her space and keeping her quarantined from his, it just highlights how desperately he needs some kind of connection that feels, clean, untouched by the darkness he lives in.
So Molly becomes this symbol, in a way, of that basic human need for normalcy, maybe an escape hatch, even if it's just in his head.
But she's so much more than just a symbol.
Oh, definitely. She's got her own plans, right? Saving up to open her own shop.
Exactly. It shows her independence, her own fierce need for self-reliance. She's not just waiting around.
And her view of him, of his life.
Yeah.
Wow, it can be brutally honest.
Uh-huh. It really forces him to look at how he sees himself versus what his actual responsibilities are. That moment she calls him a foolish, stubborn child. It's not just her being angry. It's a sharp critique. She's basically saying, look, your duties to Verity, to King Shrewd, to Kettrick, even to their unborn child, these things are way more central to your life and the kingdom's fate than your personal feelings for me.
It's such a reality check on the real hierarchy of his obligations.
It cuts right to the heart of that constant battle he wages inside himself, personal desire versus the crushing weight of duty.
Okay, so moving from that really intense personal connection, we see other kinds of bonds too. Burrage, for example. He feels like this absolute rock of loyalty and just practical strength.
He really is. His skills are very grounded, aren't they? Healing a normal wound, dealing with an infection. He saved that guy at Graydon's foot when the healer was ready to just chop it off, took a calculated risk.
But he's also honest when things are beyond him. Like with the protagonist's more complicated problems, the stuff caused by, well, everything he's been through.
Right. He admits, we don't know. And so we don't know how to cure you. He lists the possibilities. The poison, the beating, the drowning. It shows you the limits of practical knowledge when faced with something deeper, maybe magical, or just sheer trauma.
And his loyalty, man, it costs him. You see him coming back from that attack on Verity's group, badly injured, needing help just to walk.
Limping heavily.
But even in pain, his sense of duty is just solid. He keeps calling himself one of the king's men. We are king's men, sworn. Even when he clearly hates dealing with someone like Regal, fetching his horse. That oath is his identity.
That kind of unwavering commitment, even when the person you're serving is flawed or frankly awful, it says a lot about how duty works in this world.
Yeah. And then you contrast that with the Fool.
Oh, the Fool. Such an enigma. His loyalty is expressed in completely different ways, totally unconventional.
He's so fascinating. His devotion isn't about oaths or physical stuff. It's often symbolic, right? Tied up in prophecy and these strange, insightful comments.
You see his pain or frustration not really in what he says, but maybe the bells he wears go quiet, or he literally just hides himself away.
Yeah.
And then there's that incredible take he has on the protagonist being named Farseer.
Oh, right. That's huge.
The Fool suggests it's not about the past, what the house has seen. It's a name the house will someday earn, like a vision of the future reaching back to name him. He calls it the key insight he treasures, that the future itself points to this family, this person.
Wow. That just weaves this weird paradoxical thread of hope into what feels like a pretty bleak situation.
Yeah, like a hint of destiny or maybe future justification for all the suffering. It puts the struggle into a much bigger context.
And then there's the wit bond with Night Eyes, which is complicated.
So complicated, full of societal judgment, stigma, but it offers this raw, undeniable companionship, a different kind of pack.
Yeah, those moments of just simple connection. Hunting together, sharing that feeling of the kill, that primal bond.
The book even notes his horse wasn't keen on the wolf, so when they hunted just for themselves, he went on foot because, as it says, we hunted more companionably that way. It shows how deep that connection goes beyond just human-animal.
But the protagonist himself struggles with it, right? Because of how society sees the wit, he tries to push Night Eyes away, deny that part of himself.
Yeah, he tells him, I am of a pack that you cannot be part of. You are not a human. You are a wolf. We are not pack.
Ouch.
And the impact on Night Eyes is just devastating. The description is isolation and betrayal, loneliness. It shows the wolf feels that rejection so deeply. It really highlights the emotional cost of the protagonist's internal conflict and the world's prejudice.
So beyond juggling all these intense personal relationships, the kingdom itself is under siege. How do characters actually act when they're facing these huge external threats and the internal ones, too?
Well, Tetrakin steps up remarkably as queen-in-waiting, heir to the Mountain Kingdom where they call her sacrifice.
Which says a lot in itself.
Right. Her sense of duty is immense. It covers her own people and her adopted Six Duchies folk. And her work restoring the Queen's garden at Buckkeep. It's not just about flowers.
No, it feels much bigger.
It's a vital act of rebuilding, trying to make the court functional, desirable again, even when it's damaged. It's something the king himself is too worn out to do. She actually tells the protagonist, before you is a task the king himself cannot do. Rebuild the court at Buckkeep. It's like this quiet act of resistance against all the decay.
And her strength shows immediately when she arrives after that attack on Verity's party. Just her quiet command, bring in our dead. So powerful, shows real leadership in crisis.
And she makes that incredibly risky strategic move too, faking a miscarriage to protect herself and the heir from Regal.
A desperate calculation.
Absolutely. Born of necessity. The fact that it goes well enough just underlines the danger she's in and how cunning she has to be to survive.
So while Ketrican is holding things together at court, Verity is out there shouldering this massive, mostly invisible burden.
Right.
Using the skill to fight off the red ships.
It's crucial work, literally saving the kingdom. But because nobody sees it, it's all happening in the skill realm. People don't get it. They don't appreciate it.
Yeah, the book says something like, because his people could not grasp what he did for them, it was as if the Farseers did nothing. The people lost heart.
You can understand his despair, right? Pouring all your strength into defending people who think you're doing nothing. It just drains your will.
And that despair, plus the need for a real solution, leads him to make that huge gamble, heading off to the Rain Wilds to find the Elderlings.
It's a total long shot, a high-stakes quest, placing enormous trust in the protagonist back home to handle the ugly secret battling, as Verity calls it, that he has to do remotely with the skill.
Now then, the threats they're facing are just relentless. Externally, you've got the red ships constantly raiding, and then the forged ones.
Ugh, the forged ones. Horrifying. People twisted by skill drugging into these mindless, violent creatures just wrecking everything. There's that one brutal fight described with a forged one who's big and muscled like a smith, just driven by this boundless anger of a hunted animal. Facing that takes a huge physical and mental toll.
But you could argue the most dangerous threat isn't even external. It's coming from inside the family. It's Regal.
Oh, Regal! His ambition, his cruelty, his complete lack of loyalty. It's genuinely chilling.
He's actively working against his own family.
Yeah.
Leaving Ketrican exposed after the attack, trying to grab power while Verity's still technically alive.
And he covers his tracks so well, as Burrich points out. His actions aren't just political maneuvering. They feel deeply personal, malicious, and they're tearing the kingdom apart from the inside.
Trying to navigate all that, it clearly costs the protagonist dearly. He's dealing with lingering sickness, he's vulnerable to magical attacks, plus all the emotional pain from broken relationships and feeling like he's failed people.
That sense of failure weighs heavily on him, and it's amplified by these really unsettling moments, like that skill vision he gets into King Shrewd's mind.
Oh, that was rough.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. You don't just see the king's physical suffering, but you glimpse the trapped spirit of the strong young man he used to be, just raging inside against his failing body. It adds this whole layer of tragedy to the politics, shows the human cost of it all.
But even with all that despair, you still see these moments of hope, right?
Yeah.
Often born out of pure desperation. Like that secret plan Chade cooks up with others to get Shrewd and Kettrigan out of Buckkeep and up to the mountains.
It's incredibly risky, a total clandestine operation driven by loyalty and just the desperate need to save the royal line, to keep some chance for the future alive. Chade even mentions how much Shrewd hates it, how running, especially from his own son Regal, just eats at him. To flee Buckkeep is even worse. Our king has never been a coward. It galls him now to run.
And that reluctance, even when it's obviously necessary, makes the act of escaping feel like this powerful act of defiance, a kind of stubborn hope.
Exactly. It's about refusing to let Regal completely snuff out the future, even while the protagonist is wrestling with his own feelings of having failed the king.
That escape attempt, like so many things in the book, really sums up the core tension we've been talking about, doesn't it?
It does, that constant struggle, balancing your own needs and wants against these massive demands of duty, the different ways loyalty shows up and how much it can cost, especially when faced with betrayal, and just that persistent, sometimes desperate need to find hope and do something meaningful when everything looks so dark.
Exploring themes this deep, it really does enrich how we understand things. Not just this amazing book, but maybe human nature itself.
Definitely.
And to help you reflect more on these complex ideas, we definitely recommend checking out our YouTube channel, Mindful Moments, for more of that AI book analysis.
And for more conversations like this one, exploring compelling stories, you should also check out our podcasts.
Yeah, engaging with challenging stories like this, it gives you valuable perspective, maybe on your own life and the choices you face. So it makes you think. When you face those overwhelming challenges, where do you find strength? What duties feel most important to you? And, maybe crucially, how do you keep hope alive?
Those are powerful questions to sit with.
They really are. Well, thank you for joining us for this exploration of the book. If you found this valuable, please do subscribe so you don't miss what we dive into next.
And share it with friends who you think might connect with these themes.
Absolutely. You might also consider purchasing the book to support the creators. Check the description, there might be a link. And most importantly, keep thinking critically about the complex world around you.